So as I've been doing my studies on Revelation and on the Bible in general, I've came across a bunch of rather shocking discoveries. One of the discoveries I came across early on was the idea that there might be more than one rapture. And we all kind of know that there are three basic positions for when people get raptured. So the first time of rapture would be before the seals are opened, before the Lamb takes the scroll. And the second time is somewhere around the time of the abomination of desolation. And then there are other people who believe that the rapture will take place right around the sixth seal, which would be sometime after the abomination, but before the second coming of Christ. So these are your three basic positions about when there's a rapture. And the fact is that all of those are true. There are different groups of sons who will be caught up at different times. There isn't just one rapture of the whole group of believers. There are different groups of people who are going to be going into God's presence. And remember, God's presence is symbolized by a temple in the book of Revelation. That whole scene in heaven is a temple scene. So we see God on the ark, which is his throne. We have people seated before him who are kings and priests. That's the 24 elders. The male child of Revelation 12, the one who's going to rule with a rod of iron, that we also read about in Revelation chapter 2, where it talks about how Jesus is going to give authority to his people to rule with him with a rod of iron. The male child and the 24 elders are both associated with the throne of God. So that's the group that will be taken into heaven before the seals are opened or anything like that. And it's commonly associated with a pre-tribulation rapture. The second group of believers who will be brought into heaven are the 144,000 of Israel. That's the next group of believers who are going to kind of come on the scene. And they are associated with the temple. They are those who are counted when John measures the temple of God in the holy city, and they're also associated with Mount Zion, the temple that's going to be on Mount Zion. The 144,000 of Israel are associated with that place, and then the Lamb will bring them into heaven, and that's when they will meet up with the 24 elders. They'll be in God's presence and they will sing a song. And by the way, the 24 elders, they have their song that they sing. The 144,000 have a song they sing. And then there is that third group of the people I now call the God-fearers. These are those who fear God and give him glory. And they are believers who will come to Christ. Many of them will come to Christ after those first two groups are gone. And they will be brought into heaven in what I call the cloud rapture. That's described when one like a son of man comes on a cloud in Revelation 14:14. This is after the abomination of desolation sometime, but before the bowls of wrath are poured out. We see those people in Revelation 15. They're standing by the sea of glass mingled with fire, and they are also singing a song. So those are the three different groups. The first one, the male child, the 24 elders, is associated with the throne of God. The 144,000 of Israel are associated with the temple and Mount Zion, and they will be brought into God's presence prior to the abomination of desolation. They're the ones that are mentioned in the letter to the church of Philadelphia, who have a name on their foreheads, who have writing on their foreheads, who are going to be a part of the temple of God, who are going to be kept from the hour of trial. And if you follow my videos, or if you have an understanding about these things, the hour of trial that comes upon all who dwell on earth is actually a reference to the sixth trumpet, which will take place right around the same time as the abomination of desolation. It's that hour, day, month, and year when a third of mankind is going to be destroyed. And then that final group, they're taken into heaven on a day nobody knows. That's the secret one. If you're a Christian, you're alive at that time, you're going to have to be watching. You're going to have to be watching and waiting for Christ to come and get you. And that's when he comes on a cloud, and that's when people go up to meet him in the air, and then they're taken into heaven. And then the 7 angels with the bowls of wrath come out of God's temple, and that's when the wrath of God begins to be poured out. Now, there is another, I guess we'd call it maybe a rapture, because I think these believers will also be brought into God's presence, and that is when Christ returns. And that's when what we call the first resurrection will take place. And first doesn't necessarily mean first in time. First also carries the connotation of the premier or the best. First in class means you're taking the honors. And this is the resurrection of people who are going to have celestial bodies, as opposed to the great white throne resurrection, where people will have terrestrial bodies. That is, bodies that are going to enable them to live on the new earth. The first resurrection is the one that's associated with believers, and we are going to be given celestial heavenly bodies like that of Christ. And that last group of people who will be resurrected, these are people who are the martyrs of the beast, and there will be others as well, and they will be resurrected into celestial bodies, and they too will be presented to God in the heavenly temple. I don't know why they wouldn't be. So that would actually be a fourth rapture event that would take place then after Christ returns, sometime during the Feast of Tabernacles. So those are the 4 times when people are going to be raptured. A lot of people will say, well, there's only one rapture and the whole church goes in that one rapture. Well, that's not true. There is no rapture of the church found anywhere in scriptures. There is no rapture of the bride found anywhere in the scriptures. There is the rapture of sons who will rule, and the rapture of the redeemed, that's the 144,000, and the rapture of the God-fearers, those who fear God, who give him glory, and who worship him during the reign of the beast, and they're faithful to the Lord. So those are the rapture events that we're looking for. There is no rapture of the church or the rapture of the bride. The sons will be brought into heaven, and then believers who've received their celestial bodies will return with Christ at the second coming as an army, not a bride. And then they will rule and reign with Christ for 1,000 years. And then at the end of the millennium, that's when the bride will have made herself ready. That's when believers will be given their white garments. And that's when the New Jerusalem will come down out of heaven from God. And that's when we first see the Spirit and the bride inviting people to the marriage supper. The marriage supper of the Lamb won't be held until after we have the new earth and the new heavens and the new Jerusalem. During the millennium, Christ is going to be working, and he's actually ruling, and he has a rod of iron. And during that whole time of transition between the world we're living in now and the beast kingdom, and then transitioning into the millennial kingdom, Christ is going to be working. In fact, he has a commission, he has an assignment, and that is to put down all of God's enemies and then hand the kingdom over to his Father at the end of the millennium. So because he is not free to marry, because he's working, there won't be any bridal supper. There isn't going to be any wedding until Christ has finally sat down to rest and has turned everything over to his Father. So those are just some of my thoughts in a brief 10-minute or less video. Let me know what you think. I hope you'll check out some of my other videos on my channel. I hope you'll share this video as well. Actually, people who believe in a pre-seal, a mid-trib, a pre-wrath, and post-trib rapture, everybody's right. We'll see you on another video. Till then, have a blessed day.